welcome Outside Vancouver Public Schools. I'm Nick Vole. We're taking a look at how learning continues even though kids aren't in traditional classrooms right now. We have some good news to report. A teacher from Vancouver iTech Preparatory is the Regional Teacher of the Year, and now she's eligible to become the State Teacher of the Year also. Erin Lark, who teaches environmental and life sciences at iTech Prep, was nominated by her peers and selected from a group of highly qualified educators from all around our area. She will head up to Olympia later this year to see if she is named the State Teacher of the Year by the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. Dr. Lark was recognized for her commitment to not only getting students interested in science, but supporting them in all areas of their life and learning. And joining me now is the Teacher of the Year herself, Erin Lark. Erin, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
How does it feel to be the Regional Teacher of the Year?
It's an incredible honor that still hits me in waves to consider that I'm able to share a little bit of the wonderful work that happens in my classroom with other people, and that was something that was noticed and appreciated is definitely still mind-blowing and surreal to think about, and I'm very honored by that.
So you were nominated by someone who works alongside you, who gets to see what you do every day. Does that make it a little more special to know that someone else has nominated you for this?
Yes, I was nominated by Catherine Livick of ESD 112 and have been blessed to work with her on so many digital learning projects and advancing science and computer science and computational thinking and what we do here in the state. And it is incredible to have that recognition come from her, and completely humbling as well.
So after the regional competition, which you are now the champion of, you move on to the state level and then potentially the national level. How wild is it to think that you could potentially be the National Teacher of the Year and the State Teacher of the Year as well?
That's an incredibly surreal thing to consider. You go from spending time with your students and your classroom to opening up your world to all of the other educators that are out there. And the idea that you get to be one piece of that puzzle is fantastic. And thinking beyond that is just, it's hard to put into words, because in September I'll get to meet the other 8 regional people. And that's, I mean, I just want to give them anything and everything I can, all the props, because they've got to be incredible people. And I think that we're all wonderful and we all deserve recognition. So this is just a little piece of that I still can't believe is happening.
Mm-hmm. I take it like awards and accolades are not the reason you got into teaching. Why is it that you enjoy what you do and are obviously good at it?
I thank you for the compliment. I love teaching because I like not having the answers, and I like having the daily faith in the future to have those answers. It's wonderful to witness, be a part of students solving the problems of today, imagining the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow, and taking flight with that. And that is something wonderful that as adults we don't always get in every profession. Some professions, you are the person who has to have every answer and make every decision and guideline, whereas with teachers we have the freedom to let students own and sculpt that process. And that is so exciting because they come up with things that would never occur to me, and it just really gives you faith in the future and what's to come.
So for those who are not, in your classroom every day at iTech Prep, what do you teach, and then how would you describe your classroom environment to outsiders?
I teach 612 science. So I have students in many grades and in several classes that are there in our fantastic project-based learning school, where we really focus on using STEM to guide us through activities, real-world problems. We bring in the humanities to give students these really rich tasks to work on, to figure out. And so coming into my classroom or any classroom of all of my wonderful colleagues, it's a different feel. It's a different experience than many people had in their own school history, or maybe seen other places, where we have students wrestling with what's at the height of everyone's concern today. You will see students talking about things like pandemics, discussing things like human rights, and having that ownership, responsibility, and trust given to them by their instructors is something that is so wonderful to see. I'm so lucky to work where I work and with the wonderful people that I work with. I mean, we set the stage for the magic to happen, and the students just run with it.
So our district has had several regional teachers of the year in our history, and I've interviewed several of them, and it seems like every single one, you included, comes back to this idea of like, you're not an island, you know, you're part of a good team of teachers. It's just your turn to get the recognition. Could you kind of talk about how that works? How do you as a staff work together to help kids?
I think that our influence that we're able to do and the type of large scale fun we're able to have with learning is only possible working together. We often will have those hallway conversations where you catch someone and say, hey, I've been thinking about this idea. That's great. I'm going to add this to it several times a day. We have them in the hallways. We have them in our building labs. We have them in classrooms in the middle of lunch. And so I think when you get to work with people that are comfortable bouncing ideas off of each other, trusting each other collegially to come up with something even more awesome, amplify anything you do to a new level, you get this environment of continuous generation of exciting learning opportunities. And that's something that, you know, only a fantastic culture can make happen. And I'm lucky in that there are many schools in Southwest Washington that are like that. And I know iTech Prep is just one of them. And I love that. I love that for students, and I love how education is shifting to make that happen.
Well, speaking of how shifting education is, we're in a weird time. We don't know what school's going to look like exactly in the fall. How are you and your fellow teachers preparing for kind of now, I don't want to say the unknown because we know what it could look like, but preparing for whatever they throw at you? How are you guys getting ready for what could be a difficult school year?
I just had that conversation earlier today with one of my colleagues, and we determined that it's key for educators to get to the heart of where their strength comes from. So we talk about pedagogy, how teachers plan to do what they do when they're working with youth. And so when you think about yourself and your ability to build relationships, what does that mean for you? It's something easy to say, but when you unpack that and look at what about you speaks to your students and allows that learning to happen, and then taking that and focusing on that, because content will ebb and flow or will change or will need to be adjusted. But if we look at your strength as a relationship builder, and then we move forward to what skills come out of your class, skills that translate into students' future lives that they can apply, if we stick to those pieces at the heart, I think that is what helps us frame, provide guideposts for whatever's coming in the future, because we all hope to get back to safe schools as soon as we possibly can. So we know that whatever format we start in, there will be adjustments. And so if you continue to have that strong base and flow that comes from your heart as a teacher, I don't think you can go wrong. You'll have a solid place from which to make any momentary change you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, before you were a teacher, correct me, you haven't been a teacher your whole professional career. Is that correct?
Correct.
Could you tell for the folks out there, you know, where you came from and why you decided teaching was the thing you wanted to do?
Well, I have always loved school, and I also always loved working with people, and hearing people's stories was always something that was wonderful to me. And then what naturally came of that is wanting to share stories, because I feel that when we share stories and we hear them, we gain empathy, we gain trust in each other, and we can make things happen that we can't do alone. And so I started off in social work, getting a degree in business and social work aspects, and started in a nonprofit realm with families that were housing insecure, families that were transitional, and specifically working with women and children to move through that process. And then as a natural consequence of that, I found myself drawn also to those stories, those lives, and wanting to make a longer lasting change with these families that were coming through our service, you know, relatively quickly. We were seeing people for a few months to a year, and realized that I loved school and wanted to go back to school and really never want to leave school. And so that's when I switched and got a master's in education. And In doing so, I remembered a moment in third grade when my teacher, Mrs. Young, asked me to get something for her from her office. She had a separate little room kind of right next to our classroom with the door open, and I was able to walk right in, and my jaw just fell. I saw all of the books and the papers and the pens and the manipulatives and all of the materials that she used to make learning happen. And I was thinking, I want this to be mine. I want this to be my office. And when I was coming to that conclusion, looking at grad school, I remember that moment, and that moment drove what I do. And so thinking about, how do I take that, all of what goes into teaching, and make that a metaphorical office, that bank that teachers have and bring with them. And that's how I moved through into grad school, became a teacher, moved to Washington and started here, and just fell in love with the process. In doing so, of course, became more and more engaged in interdisciplinary learning, which led to my passion in STEM. And I use that to continue to pursue education, because I promise you, I'm never leaving school. It's always, what can I do next?
So how do you think that your previous work experience made you a better teacher? Because a lot of teachers come straight out of college and they love teaching and they're great teachers, but you have, again, a slightly different perspective. How do you think that prior experience helped you to become a better teacher?
I think that getting to know and different perspectives is really what it comes down to, because I have my own lens from my own life, and I come from a life of privilege. I worked with people who did not, or life had thrown them a set of circumstances that on their, best day they could not have anticipated. And to really look at what it takes for a family to send a child to school, and what that looks like in their life over time, and what they do with that. So thinking about students as a whole person who starts early and then goes forward into adulthood, really was a perspective I'm not sure I would have gained if I had not worked with families in those other structures. It also allowed me to consider all of the work that goes into school systems, such as our district that has our programs that care for families that need that extra care and support, that cares for individuals who maybe need some services, some health services, some mental health services, some support when financial times are tight, and then looking into the technology aspect of it. How do we deliver services? Even when we're in-person school, we rely on things electronically, and how all of these services work together with the community at large. Everything from utilities to government. Schools touch all of that. And so it's a big machine. And having that additional perspective really helps me find moments of empathy, patience, and calm when it feels like so many things are out of our control. If you're in your classroom thinking, what am I going to do with these students? Expanding that perspective out to all of the pieces at play really allows you to take a breath, remember we're in this together, and take the next step.
Sure. Moving back towards the award, do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and just think to yourself that in a couple of short months you could be the state teacher of the year? That you just wake up in a cold sweat?
I think I think that the more teachers I meet across Vancouver, across the state, and on my luckiest days across our country and throughout the world, the more I'm in awe of all of the work done everywhere. So I want to point at a dozen more teachers, and I look at this opportunity as a way to continue that network and amplify the awesomeness that is out there everywhere. So not quite, but I definitely wake up in a panic because I want to be worthy of this recognition and appreciative, and do what I can to make this happen for more folks, and really take this as an opportunity, a responsibility to continue that work and bring us together, especially in times like now.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to say?
I would like to share that I know we right now are very challenged by what's right in front of us, as we should be. Many of us are working with the moment. We have our students in concern. We want to make sure that everyone gets learning as the school year is starting. To help us ground ourselves in that, I want to take the opportunity to ask any teacher to trust themselves that it's still a long game. We have an opportunity to be influencers in how a student addresses their future career, and providing that career connected learning piece is just as essential as it was last year before we were spending summer all of the time at home. And so when you consider the work you're doing, trust that what you're doing today is essential, valuable, meaningful for what a student is doing over their lifetime. And I think when we look at that long game of bringing careers in, opening windows for students so that when they leave our systems, we're opening that bigger door, we can trust that we've done what was right at that time. And so being gentle and kind with yourselves and keeping an eye on that long game.
Sure. And the mental health aspect of that's interesting to me too, just giving yourself a break and taking the wide view and don't get caught up in the moment, for sure. I think that's good advice for all of us, frankly.
Yes, it is. And if you're in a position where you're feeling great and that's fantastic about what's happening, look around and see who else could use a little pick me up or a shoulder to lean on as well, because we all have different days going on and we all want to give our best selves forward for students. And sometimes that means we lean on each other and take heart in that collective body of wonderful teachers that we have here.
Well, Erin, thanks for taking time to talk to me today. I know that it's summer and you're off, and I know that, it's not always the most fun thing to do on a Friday afternoon. So thanks for coming in and talking to me.
Happy to do it anytime.
All right, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, we'll find out later this year if Dr. Lark wins the State Teacher of the Year Award. If she does win that, she will be eligible for the National Teacher of the Year Award as well. In addition to the Regional Teacher of the Year Award, Dr. Lark is also a finalist for the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. She's one of 5 from our state, and she'll find out soon if she wins that award as well. Thanks for watching Outside Vancouver Public Schools. I'm Nick Vole. We will see you next time.